All right, so really quick, I just want to go over some Sova arrows for each map. Now, this is not gonna be a very long video. It's gonna be pretty short. I'm just gonna go over the main arrows that I use in basically every game. Now, obviously, there's more arrows that you can do. There's more creative ones that you can use for certain situations, but a lot of the time in ranked, I mostly solo queue. So a lot of these are just kind of straight up basic ones that can also benefit you as a solo pretty well, even if your team isn't you know, communicating or playing off you as well as you would like them to. All right, so this first arrow is one that I use basically every time if we ever go to B. It's a really good one to get into heaven. So you just go in this corner. Now, obviously, my placement might be a little different from yours because our crosshairs might be different. But it'll just be in this general area. So you're gonna be up against this wall. Okay, you're gonna look up this direction. I go by this bottom rope. Okay, so you're gonna go on the bottom rope, full charge, 2 bounce. Boom. Area. It'll bounce there, bounce there, into heaven, and you'll see heaven. Okay, so that's one that I usually do. If you kind of mess up a little bit, and I say I go a little bit farther to the right, so if I go a little bit more to the right, it kind of depends on where it's at, but sometimes it'll bounce left, as you see there. And this one isn't that bad of an arrow either. If you get it right there, you can still like check that corner, and if they're camping here or there, like it's not even that bad of an arrow anyway, but just be wary of that. So now we're gonna move over to A. This arrow is basically what I use on pretty much every single attack, basically. So you go up on this box, edge of the box, right up on the top of the kind of billboard there. Revealing 2 bars. It'll be right about there, and you'll get to see this corner. You'll get to see in heaven this corner. It's a decent arrow. I mean, it's not that bad. I would say it's more about finding where they're not, more than anything. And if you do get one, usually they move. They're not going to really stay there because it gets kind of the hard camping corners out of the way. Yeah, those are the 2 arrows on offense on split that I use pretty much every game. Okay, so now we're going to check out defense. And so if I'm defending A, pretty much the arrow that I use every single round is you just simply shoot an arrow on the side of that billboard. It'll see everyone in that spawn area there. Extremely simple, but that's the arrow that I basically use on defense on A every single round. Try to push up as much as you can here. 2 bouncer. It'll end up right in their spawn right there. This one's a little bit easier to do, probably better as well. It just kind of depends, because if you do this arrow, it might be a little bit tougher if they're right there. It might be a little bit tougher to get back up here and be able to get a good peek before. If you just want to start up here and then try to do this arrow, revealing area, that might be easier for you, but it'd probably be less effective. So, but that's split. Alrighty, so now we're gonna move on to bind. We're gonna start on attack here on A. The best of the best. A is really simple. I usually do the same arrow just about every single time, because I think it's a very important arrow. When you go on attack on A, you can pretty much assume, especially if it's in later rounds, other than pistol rounds. Actually, this arrow that I'm about to do is very important for pistol rounds, and it shows those corners really well. But you can pretty much always assume that they're going to have somebody in heaven, especially in later rounds with an op. So you really don't need to arrow that or try to arrow it. It's not really necessary. To me, the most important ones is literally just straight up on this wall. It will show this corner, which is a huge camping spot. It'll show this corner as well, which is a huge camping spot. I feel like this area in general, as well as this area, will show that camping spot as well. And I feel like those are 3 most important camping spots that teams will get burned on, especially in the lower elos. All right, so attacking on B. This one's a little bit more creative, I guess. So you'll get to about this corner, and it's good because this will be protected as well. Like, they won't be able to see you from this. Just maybe be quiet when you're doing it, but they won't. You'll be protected from this corner. You're about to get to this wall, and you're doing 1 bounce. It'll bounce right onto the middle of the site. Bounce right on that. You'll see basically the entire site. If they're sitting in hookah here, you can see them. This corner, that corner, back of site. You'll see them in this corner. Sometimes, depending on where they're at, holding elbow, you could possibly see them as well. To me, that's like, I mean, you're gonna get the entire site. It's a great arrow. Very simple. All right, so defending on A, I pretty much do the exact opposite of what you do on attack. And I literally just straight up on that wall. Or if you don't want to peek it, you can just do 1 bounce. Just, simple right there. I mean, obviously, it'll just show if they're pushing right off on spawn or not. I honestly don't have many creative ones to do for this.
Revealing area.
I mean, you can maybe... I mean, yeah, I don't know. I don't know. Honestly, I don't really have many creative ones for this. I just basically do straight up. And it'll tell me immediately if they're pushing or not. And I kind of just like to get that early because I feel like retake arrows on bind are pretty important. Like I said before with Split, I actually don't really like to defend B as Sova on this map very much. But if I do, I usually just straight up bounce, get a arrow right about there, and it'll just show me if they're pushing right off spawn. Honestly, defensive arrows for Sova, I usually just kind of like to throw them off right at the beginning, just see if they're pushing off right off spawn, and I'll have an arrow later in the game as well to use. That's usually my mentality. Let me know if you feel different. But yeah, that's usually what I do on B, and the simple one on A. So, but that's bind. Let's move on over to the last map, Haven. All right, so attack on Haven. I'm gonna start with A.
30 seconds
first,
left.
I'm gonna show you. Wait, let me stop this real quick. So first, I'm gonna show you where the arrow is going to end up. I'm gonna show you where the arrow is gonna end up because I'm not really gonna be able to shoot it and exactly run to it to see where it ends up. So, where the arrow will end up is about right here. And so the point of this is you'll see that corner. You'll see under Heaven, which is huge. You'll see this corner as well. So, and you'll see Heaven itself, most likely, if they're peeking. So if you're going to push long, this is a really, really nice arrow to go right off the bat. So that's where it's going to end up. So how you shoot it is, and you can kind of pay attention to the mini map and see where it ends up. But you're going to get to this little corner here. Right at this, like, kind of peak or, like, point edge of this branch. You kind of see what I'm talking about. You'll be right under it. And then about 1.5. 1.5 power. That was a little far, actually. See if you get up against the wall.
Revealing area.
About 1.25 should work. And you see where it lands. You see on that side wall. So yeah, that's A. All right, so if we're going for a B push, I usually just arrow garage just right through.
Revealing area.
And that's usually a pretty good indication of if anybody's in window, if anybody's in this corner, which people hold, especially early in round, in like early pistol rounds, like with a shorty or something. That's pretty common. That's pretty much what I'll do every time if we're trying to push B, or like garage to C. Honestly, in terms of B arrows, I really don't know too many that actually are as useful as clearing garage like that, in my opinion. So. Moving on to C, though. C is a really good one. This is the best arrow for C. There's literally no discussion. it'll show the entire point. So what you're gonna go to is this flower. So you get to this single flower, not the double. There's a single flower right here. You're gonna get right here, right up against it. You're not gonna be able to be seen. So you're gonna get right up against it. You're gonna line up the charge bar with like the roof, right?
Revealing area.
1.5. Boom. So where that is able to be seen is you'll see this entire corner. See there. You'll see there. You'll see there. Like, you'll literally see the entire point. If anybody's even hiding, like, behind the boxes here. You'll literally see the entire point. So, again, flower. Right up against it. Bar on the roof. 1.5. Literally no better arrow that you can use on C point. And aim right at like this first little thing here on the roof, at the edge, little over 1, and this arrow will land right in their spawn, just about there. Basically just tells you if they're just gonna straight up push right up A or not. Kind of the same concept as the other maps on defense. There's not a whole lot you can do on defense, and again, I try to use it early so that I have an arrow later in the game, later in the round, just in case we need to retake a point, which is important to get a Sova arrow off if they ever already planted, just to see where people are at. So I try to get off as early as possible, and that already tells me whether they're going to hard push a point or not. All right, so one huge arrow, one retake arrow that I'm going to show you that's actually really good. So if I'm holding C and they planted, say they planted A, or they're pushing A, and they're on site, so I'm going to get to here, get on top of these boxes, at this last red marker here. Okay, charge bar on the roof. No power, just one tap it, and it gets it to the exact same spot as that attacking arrow was before. Same concept, under heaven, that corner. It already gets you a lot of information, and it's a really good retake arrow late in a game. Again, red bar on the roof.
Revealing area.
No power at all, just one tap it right there, gives you all the info. All right, so again, these arrows are mostly what I just use every game. I'm not listing all the different types of arrows that you can use. Like I said, this is going to be very short, very quick, just to show you what I use in basically every game, that I think is the best use of it. Especially solo. There are a couple other arrows that are like, you could use more specifically, if you're pushing a certain direction. Say you want to push up straight up B, you can throw an arrow on the right side of B to make sure no one's holding, like, you could throw an arrow on, just to show you, like, throw an arrow on this side to see, if they're holding here or something like that. But if you have a coordinated team, you can do that kind of stuff. These arrows that I'm showing are mainly, like, if you're just solo queuing, they're just good in general. They're good info for you. They're good info for your team. Especially if, like, it's not very, there's not a lot of communication. You want to get if there's not a lot of comms going on, you want to get as much info as you possibly can as solo to your team to give yourself the best chance to win. So that's all I got, guys. I appreciate you watching. Hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you next time.